Hey, welcome back to the Big Ranch Show. As always, thank you for joining me. If you could, hit that subscribe button down below and let's get right to it. Now, the other day, Kanye West made some comments about former President Obama and how he supports Donald Trump. And he seems to think that all the attacks that he's getting are simply because he supports Donald Trump. And here's the thing. Most people don't care that you supported Donald Trump. They're not hating on you for that. They're hating on you because of the comments you made. And this is where I have a problem with your comments. You know, I don't care that you voted for Donald Trump. I don't particularly care for your music. I think you're a terrible artist. But, you know, to each their own. Obviously, millions of people across the country and around the globe love your stuff. And that's all well and good. But you made this claim about Chicago. And the one that got me was saying that, well, Obama was president for 8 years and nothing in Chicago changed. Now, that much may be true. It's a little misleading, though. You make as if Obama was supposed to fix Chicago. What's a president going to do to fix a single city? If you remember, when Obama took office, this country was falling apart from top to bottom. Everybody was hurting when Obama took office back in 2009. Not just Chicago. Not just not just Detroit, not just Chicago. The entire country was hurting when he took office. And the fact that he was able to hold things together long enough for the economy to recover, I think he was doing a pretty good job. Now, you're right. No, he didn't do anything really to help Chicago. Except offer anything that they wanted, or any help they needed anyway, from the federal government. What else was he to do? We're not allowed to pass gun laws to prevent criminals from getting firearms. You know, or at least make it harder for them to get firearms. The city of Chicago passed a ban on certain firearms. The Supreme Court said no. And then you also have to consider this, that a president has no control over what happens in an individual city. You don't have the ability. What was he supposed to do? Declare martial law? Oh, that would have went over well with the Republicans, wouldn't it? Oh yeah, those far right folks would have lost their shit. All I have to do to point to anything I have to point to there is Jade Helm 15, the military drill that took place a few years ago. How the Republicans lost their minds over it, even though it was our military that set it up, not the president. So if you remember how bad that was, do you really think he could have declared martial law and sent in the National Guard to Chicago without some kind of states' rights problem? And without looking like he was trying to take over the country, and with some tyrannical, iron fist or something? No, he couldn't have. Also, crime in Chicago goes way back. There's been problems with crime in Chicago since before I was born. Has a long history of violence, even gun violence. You know? Not to mention corruption. There's been a lot of corruption issues in Chicago. You know, I'm not going to sit here and lay blame on one party or another. Because I'm sure there's been a lot of corruption on both sides. But the crime in Chicago isn't new. It isn't something that just happened and Barack Obama was going to be able to fix it. No president in my lifetime has fixed it. It has progressively gotten worse. It's not something an individual person can do. When Donald Trump leaves office, either in 2021 or 2025, crime is still going to be a problem in Chicago. There's nothing he can do to fix that. It's something that must change at the local level. There must be an end to corruption. They must be able to find a way to keep gang members from being able to get so many firearms. And we must, repair the educational system in the city. Rahm Emanuel has not done a good job as mayor to do that, from what I've been reading. Making cuts to education does not fix the problem, sir. And Kanye West, that's the problem I have with your comment, is it's misleading. Crime in Chicago is a deep-rooted problem that has been there for decades. And what do you expect? Do you expect, because he's the first black president, you expect him just to focus on black issues? Or just on crime in one city? When he's not the president of one city in America. He was the president of the United States of America, not the president of Chicago only. He had to worry about people here in Nacogdoches, Texas. He had to worry about people up in New York. He had to worry about people in Florida. Had to worry about people in California. Had to worry about people in Kansas. Chicago was not the only thing on his plate. And considering a lot of what's happening in Chicago is gun violence, maybe, just maybe, Kanye West, we should figure out a way to end gun violence, and then the crime rate in Chicago could go down. Have you ever stopped once to figure that the reason Barack Obama couldn't solve Chicago was because he had other issues to deal with, and Chicago is a deep-rooted local issue that can only be solved by the people in the state and the people in the city. Short of declaring martial law or sending in the National Guard, I don't know what else you can do. I don't know what else you expected from the man. He's a politician and a president. Politicians always promise these huge, grandiose ideas, and they never follow through. Obama tried. Last I checked, he got through almost 75% of his promises before he left office. He's somewhere between 65 and 75% of them. Nowhere do I remember him stating, I will end crime in Chicago. If we want to go on a national situation, if you want to look at it as he should be focused on what one city, well, let's look at that one city did while he was in office as president. They got it to where there's no gun shops in the city of Chicago, supposedly. But the problem is they are surrounded by gun shops in places that allow any number of guns into their areas. So where do the gang members go to buy these guns? They leave the city and they come back. Now, if it was harder, for these gun shops to pop up everywhere, maybe Chicago could actually get a handle on some of their gun violence. But that's not going to happen in America. At this point, I have come to realize that we are going to do nothing about gun violence. We don't give two shits if somebody dies due to a gunshot. And then people like Kanye West are going to sit there and try to make a name for themselves on the deaths of these people being just savagely murdered daily in this country and in the city of Chicago, in the city of Detroit, and across America. Because he wants to make himself look good. He wants to look like he's Donald Trump's BFF. And you know what, Kanye West? People don't give two shits that you voted for Donald Trump. Just like most people didn't give two shits that Eminem doesn't like Donald Trump. The fact is, I would still listen to Eminem whether or not he liked Donald Trump. And I would still not listen to you whether or not you like Donald Trump. People aren't being hateful to you or mean to you or saying negative things about you because you support Donald Trump. What they're upset about are your lame arguments for why you support Donald Trump. And there are a lot of things that I could say about Barack Obama, both positive and negative. But the one thing I can say about all presidents is that one city is not the only city that they're the president of. They cannot focus all their time and energy into one city. Cities have to change at the local level, from the inside out. It has to be grassroots, and it has to take place organically in the city, or it's not going to change anything. You can't, at the end of the day, we're not going to be able to legislate ourselves to getting rid of all gun violence in one city. Because we're never going to get rid of all the guns. We're not going to ban guns in this country. That's never going to happen. And so, short of outright banning all guns, I don't see gun violence ever ending. But there are regulations we could put in place to at least curb some of it. If you ask me, maybe, just maybe Chicago could be a testing ground for some of those ideas. Lastly, Kanye West, my last problem I have with your comments is you provide no solutions. You talk about how the crime is still bad in Chicago. You provide no solutions. At least you got other people out there that are putting their money where their mouth is, trying to make solutions. At least Obama tried to make solutions. And you're running your mouth like a dumbass. That's all you're doing. So, Kanye West and all your supporters and all your listeners across the world, tell me, if you support his comments, tell me some solutions. I know Kanye West will never watch my video. There's a reason for it. And, I'm too small of a person. He ain't going to listen to me. So what happens when you get so big you forget that there are other people suffering in the country? And I can tell you right now, it doesn't matter what happens to me if I ever happen to make it here on YouTube or not. I will still care about other people. And I will continue to want to fight to protect people from gun violence. And Kanye West, I really don't care what you have to say. I don't care that you support Donald Trump. This is America. Everybody has the right to vote for who they want to vote for. I would have never voted for Donald J. Trump. At least not in 2016. Before I realized some of his views, I would have supported him. But Donald Trump showed himself to be a racist nonstop for 8 years. And I can't get past that. And now there's talks of him and his HUD secretary trying to make people like myself homeless. So Kanye West, unless you want to start helping the homeless, the poor, the disabled, and you actually want to get out there and be a voice for how to stop gun violence, I suggest you shut it. This has been The Big Rant Show. I've been your host, Jacob Keck. Have a great day, and I'll see you down the road.